First of all, we are very clear that there are so many places that you could be right now, so many other things that you could be doing. However, you have chosen to be with us tonight, and for that, we are grateful. We have such a beautiful lineup. Aren't they beautiful? Can we just go ahead and give them a hand? As most of you know, we are celebrating Women's History Month, and we have some dynamic women here to share their journey with you all. We have them from all walks of life, bringing their experiences, and we welcome you. And the community engagement department at Metro, here in Metro Nashville, we welcome you. Of course, Mayor Cooper is our ninth mayor, and he's very excited about us being here tonight, and he's excited about you being here tonight. These women are definitely blazing the trail for younger women coming behind them. And we want you to know that we have a moderator here tonight that you're very familiar with. And before we get into all of that, we have a rendition from the Christ Church Nashville. They're going to come and give us a selection, and at the end of our program, they're going to come and give us another selection. We're so delighted that you all are here tonight. So if you'll come and take your places, while I talk a little bit about your director. His name is Otto Gross, and we want you to know, yeah, hey, wave at us, Otto. And I understand this is your first performance outside of your church since you've been the director. If you can come right here in the, yeah, okay, right there. That's where you all prefer to stand. Let's give them a round of applause. And I'm also delighted, as you take your places, to share with you that Latanya Channel, she works in the mayor's office, and she also sings with that choir. She's a little under the weather tonight. She's our economic development specialist, and she wants to say hello to each and every one of you. So at this time, the choir will sing, and at that time, after they finish, I'll come back to the podium, and I'll let you all know what to expect next. Thank you.
First off, hi Latanya, wherever she is. Thank you all so much for having us. Can we just have a little church with y'all? Is that okay? Amen. If it wasn't okay, we're going to do it anyway.
Could we please give them another round of applause? Thank you. Otto, you're ready, man. This may be your first time out, but it certainly will not be your last, okay? At this time, I'd like to call Terry Luke to the stage. Terry, where are you? Come on over. I like to just brag on you a little bit. I want you all to know who Miss Terry Luke is. She is the interim director here at the library. Could we give her a round of applause? I want you to know that in the past, she was the assistant director of the branches, right? And we have 20 of them. And I think it's also important to note that from the time that she was a little girl, she always wanted to be a librarian or do something as it relates to libraries. So, we can speak it into existence. And here she is. So we'd like for her to tell us a little bit about the library and the role that they have played in the 60th birthday and this forum for us to be here tonight. Thank you, Terry. And then I'll come back and talk about Miss Calademos, someone that everybody knows about. I was waiting for her to turn around, but look at her. How beautiful is she?
Thank you.
Thank you, darling.
Thank you. Wow, to have to follow that, seriously. So that was wonderful. So thank you, Deputy Mayor Haywood, for that kind introduction. And thanks to everyone for being here this evening. I'd like to thank our panel speakers and Ms. Calademos for agreeing to share their stories and their insights with us this evening. I'd also like to recognize all the community leaders and our elected officials who have joined us tonight. We are also grateful to Metro 60, the organizing committee, for having this here at Nashville Public Library. This is an important discussion, and we're really happy to host this. We can't think of a better place to host a panel discussion that is dedicated to women trailblazers in Nashville than right here at our library, where it is home to our Votes for Women space. This space is very unique. It is one of a kind in the entire United States. People from across our city and across the country come to Votes for Women. Next week, we'll have a group here from Minneapolis, Minnesota. And several weeks ago, I was able to be a part of Hillary Clinton coming to see that special space. So again, yes, it is really, I don't know how to put into words what a gem this is for Nashville. So people come all across the United States and the city to learn about the history of women's suffrage and the fight that took place to ratify the 19th Amendment. But Votes for Women isn't just about that. It's about bringing us together today to talk about human rights. This space is such a rich one. It is a true place of learning about pioneers who have shaped our city, our state, and our nation. We are so proud that Votes for Women is part of our library. So Nashville Public Library brings us together to learn, to discover new ideas, and to find inspiration in a place where all people are welcome all the time. You can see that our NPL team is very proud of Votes for Women. I hope that tonight, after the panel discussion, you will take an opportunity to go see and discover the Votes for Women space or even rediscover it. So again, thank you for having me talk this evening, and please know that you're all welcome at NPL, at Votes for Women, and in all our spaces, and we are honored to serve you. So thanks again for being here this evening.
Wow, that was beautiful, Miss Terry. At this time, without any further ado, I would like to introduce to some and present to others Miss Demetria Kaladimos. She is an executive producer, a former anchor and reporter, and she is the owner of a production company, and I think I'm getting this right, the Genuine Human Production Company. I got it right. I'm so proud of myself. Okay, so at this time, we're going to turn it over to Demetria, and she's going to introduce our panelists, and then we'll go from there. Thank you, Demetria. Okay, I think I'll let you do that. How much you gonna pay me?
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks everyone for coming out tonight. We are marking two observances tonight. Of course, Women's History Month, and also the 60th birthday of Metro government. So let me tell you a little history here. 60 years ago, when the very first Consolidated Council met in 1963, there was one woman in the room, Frances Doyle. And wouldn't you guess, Mrs. Doyle was replacing her husband when he died in 1959, and she then maintained her spot on the new council. Today, for the moment, there are 20 women on our 40-member council, subject to change. Now the planners are recognizing that women in Metro is really a broad topic. So we're going to try to narrow our discussion, ladies, to a handful of topics. And we'll include politics, respect, being a woman and a minority, climbing up through the ranks, you name it. We have gathered a veritable who's who in Metro government. Right here, the legend herself, Ms. Joanne North. Yeah, let's... Joanne first dipped her toe in the political waters in 1977, right? When she became part of the 1977 Constitutional Convention. Her husband, the late Steve North, had just won a race for judge. She went on 2 years later to become an at-large Metro Council member, where she served 3 terms. She was the top vote getter in her second and then final council-wide race, county-wide council race. And she was, of course, later appointed and then elected assessor of property. We saw her name on our bills quite a bit, didn't we? And always glad to see them, Joanne. Next to her is Brenda Wynn. In 2012, Brenda became the first African-American woman to be elected Davidson County Clerk, making her also the first African-American woman elected to a constitutional office in Davidson County. And I don't need to tell you, she has won every single contest since. All right. Shannon Hall is the Human Resources Director for Metro Government, a lifelong Nashvilleian. She began her Metro career in human resources, served a stint as council clerk, and returned to HR several years later to her current position as director. She knows a lot about the history of this government and has some strong feelings about it. My sister Zolfat Swara, we were both in Leadership Nashville at the same time. Let's talk about another first. She is the first Muslim elected to the Metro Council and the first Nigerian woman to be elected to any office in the United States. And on the end here, but certainly not least, Sandra Sepulveda carries the title of the youngest woman elected to Metro Council and the first Hispanic elected to the Metro Council. So, trailblazers all. I'd like to throw this out to all of you. How many of you embraced leadership from a young age? Were you the super Girl Scout or the class president, Joanne? Or were you a late bloomer?
Oh, dear. I wasn't a late bloomer, I don't think. I wasn't class president, but I was always involved in everything. And I was going to try out for the high school chorus, and I got home and I told my mother I had made it, and she said, "Was it your singing or your gift of gab?" I said, "Gift of gab." But I was 4-H. I was very active in 4-H in Marshall, Texas, a very small town in East Texas. And I did a lot of, I would enter contests like making a salad or something, you know. I was always performing. I would enter things in this county fair. And so the first time Steve ever went to Marshall, I got out my scrapbook and he looked through it and he said, "Best biscuits.
Let me put that to the test, right?
Yeah, so rest is history there with Steve.
Brenda, I can picture you winning every spelling bee and doing everything well.
Well, let me say that I was probably the late bloomer. I grew up in a family of very pretty sisters. My sisters were absolutely beautiful. It took me getting older to figure out that I wasn't ugly anymore. I considered myself an ugly duckling. I really did. And so I figured that what I had to do to stand out was to be smart. So I tried to excel and achieve. Tried not to lead because I didn't want to be a leader, but it just kind of inevitably happened. In high school, I was a class officer. I was on the newspaper staff. I was on the yearbook staff. I was in forensics. I starred in the senior play. We did The Crucible. So it was something I think I bloomed into later, though, not quite in elementary school. The thing that I did best in elementary school in second grade was write in cursive, but that was because my sisters taught me how.
Shannon, I know were you the only girl in your family, or?
I was the only girl in my family, but I was firstborn, right? And then twin brothers right behind me that were 13 months younger, and I'm the shortest at 6 feet. So you had to hold your own pretty quick. I think I always had a knack for understanding and appreciating others, no matter where they were. So I think that probably became my leadership quality. I think because I could see and understand and hear people, especially those that maybe weren't being seen, weren't being acknowledged, trying to bring them to the table a bit. And then for some reason, I think for the younger part of my life, I was fearless. I was not scared of things. And I look back now and I think, oh my gosh, I should have been a little more cautious, but I think I wasn't scared to sometimes put myself out there. I think, like you, I was definitely a late bloomer. I think by the time I got to high school, I had started to find my voice. I had started to find people that I really identified with and lots of different walks of life, and that really suited me. So.
Zulfat, we all have an American lens. Your young life, I'm sure, was quite different.
Yes, and not a late bloomer. No, not. I grew up in a very large family, 22 kids. And when you're in that mix, you have to find your voice. You have to learn how to eat very fast. So you have to learn how to speak up for yourself. So from a very young age, I was always speaking up. So I was the class prefect in elementary school. I was my high school senior prefect for the entire school. When I was in college, I was the head of the Women Society for the Muslim girls for the entire state. So I've always found myself. And I think what also happened is because when you speak a lot, people tend to push you in front as well. And I was dumb not to say no half of the time. So so I'm always that person. The only thing that I know that I never laid at or even tried to do is athletics. So, but debate, speaking, extracurricular speaking, things like that, I love to argue. So I did that growing up. And
Yeah, I do want to point out that Zulfat did tell me she used to play soccer, so she did do sports.
and not competitive.
Yeah.
That's with my brothers, not just trying to beat the boys.
I was quiet growing up in some spaces, right? I remember in high school, I had a teacher who gave out funny superlatives, and mine was silent but deadly. And then at some point, I also started doing mini protests in my family. So all of the girls were expected to do all of the work and during the holidays, making the tamales. And at some point I got tired. I'm like, I'm just gonna go take a nap. I'll be back when they're done. And for years, I didn't help make them at all until the boys were finally asked to participate. And so I've done mini protests throughout my life with my family and friends.
I love it.
Do you all think that it helps to pay your dues in smaller civic organizations before you have this goal of city government? Brenda, I see you shaking your head.
Absolutely, and serving in this office was never a goal of mine. In fact, I never saw myself serving in elected office. I enjoy politics, but I enjoy it from the other side, from the outside in. I mean, when you're in politics, you have to be politically correct. And there's somebody in the back who knows that I can't always be politically correct. So, but I just believe it is important to pay your dues. And I want to stop right now and pay some dues to this lady right here. I just want to say to Joanne North, on behalf of all the women who now get to serve in these constitutional offices, thank you for shattering that glass ceiling. You did that. You paved the way for us. And now we get to ride your coattails. So thank you so very much. And she told me I was boss. She told me when I got elected, she came to me, she said, I got something to tell you. You're the boss. Don't ever forget that. And I've never forgotten it. But when it got to the point where there was the opportunity for me to get this job, we decided that what we wanted to do was to send a letter from women in the community to the Metro Council, because in order for me to get this job, the Metro Council had to appoint me. So our goal initially was to get 50 women to sign onto a letter supporting my candidacy to be the Davidson County Clerk. Well, we started out, and 48 hours later, we had 300 names on that list. Now, I know that it was because some other people were asking to, but it was also because throughout my time in this community, I've served on boards. I was board president for the League of Women Voters of Nashville. I served on the board of Women in Numbers. I've served on the board of You Have the Power, of the YWCA. All these organizations, I believe, help to connect me with women in the community who understand that if I'm going to be a part of your group, I'm going to do my part. I'm going to work and do what I can do to make sure we get done what we want to get done. But it was those women and paying my dues early on, I think, that helped me to get those 300 women to sign that letter.
Joanne, someone's always got to be first. And it's tough to be first, isn't it?
Yes, because they watch you. If you don't show up at the event, it stands out.
Sure.
I mean, usually there's one woman there, and then there's not.
Talk
And they
talk
know
a little
you.
bit about being the only woman in the room. Do you have to be one of the guys, or is it?
I don't think I will. I don't consider myself ever being one of the guys. When I was elected to the council, it was in 1979, and there were, it was on the heels of the Watergate. And I got a lot of comments campaigning, you know, I'm not going to vote for you. And this was an older gentleman in Goodlettsville that said, I'm not going to vote for you because you need to be home with your children. And I said, well, you know, that you're right, but when my children are at home, I'm home. And then I had one person say, a man, say, the Metro Council is just no place for a woman. And I said, well, it's time we change that. But when I got in the council, I never felt any animosity amongst the men. It was me and Betty Nixon. I mean, so, you know, there you go.
Yeah.
But I think one of the reasons that I got elected in a runoff is because getting out and campaigning, and because I'd done so much work in the Heart Association and Family Children Services, Salvation Army, all the volunteer work and church work, that people knew me in a non-political way. Mm-hmm. And they also had this, hey, you know, we've just had this scandal, and all those people involved in the scandal were men. Mm. And so I don't know if that had anything to do with it or not, but I happen to believe it did. It really puts the pressure on you when you're the first, because if you're the first, that's what everybody else measures themselves, or the next candidate up to. And if you're the first and you've been a failure or you've let people down, you've let a whole generation down.
Shannon, you hear stories every day from employees and people having difficulty in the workplace. What is still happening that sometimes shocks you?
Oh,
How much time we got, right?
right. I think in my job, I mean, you can be disappointed every day. I'm not saying that I'm not. You can't control others, right? You have to control your own actions first, and you can give good advice that is not always taken. So I'll be honest with you, and it's been a rocking time the past several years. So I'm starting to think, it was funny, someone asked me that just in the past couple months, like, is there anything that you're still scared of you'll face in your job? And I was like, I don't know that there is. Like, the hits sometimes keep coming. But I feel like I'm reflecting on even, like, I'm unique up here from the standpoint of, like, I've never run for public office, and I don't think I ever will.
Don't say that. I did it. I said it. I did it.
But I think, one thing I would want, the folks watching is there's a lot of leadership positions here at Metro that are not elected officials. And I'm certainly paused for that. So to your earlier question about, and I don't know if I'd call it paying your dues, it's about understanding the people that you serve. I mean, I ultimately serve citizens of Davidson County. I serve the people in my department. I serve all Metro departments, trying to offer them great HR support, benefits. And I do think understanding how the organization works, paying your dues that way, makes you more effective. I think I'm a more effective HR director. When I came to Metro, I took a pretty large professional step back and a pay cut. And I started entry level in HR, and I worked my way from the bottom to the top, and I took a detour to the clerk, and I didn't understand that at the time either. And that made me a much more effective HR director, and I couldn't see that at the time. I was terrified, because I was like, I don't know how to be a clerk. But I do think I've become more effective, and I think we've got 10,000 beautiful employees on the Metro government side, about the same at schools, and there's a lot of paths to leadership for women all over the place. And I feel like that has been a 180 in the 20 years that I've worked here. I feel like coming back to Nashville and seeing, I think I was shocked as a grown adult to see how much a little bit of the boys club was still here, and how much that has changed in the past 20 years, I think, specifically in Metro government.
Zulfat, I remember when you had your eye on should I or shouldn't I, and you ran quite a campaign. What was the biggest obstacle, or what was an obstacle you expected but did not see?
The biggest obstacle, I think, were the people that told me not to run, that felt, and it's interesting because these were people that think they were coming from a good place, saying that, why don't you run districts? Why don't you start small? Why do you think, we've never had an immigrant as an at-large, more or less a Muslim woman. Like, I think if you start with the district might be better than jumping into it. So not that, I was taken aback because of the people it was coming from, because I actually thought they would be the one encouraging me too. So I think that was the part. Now, being attacked on the campaign was expected to some extent. It just not at that level. So I had death threats on the campaign because people didn't want to have a Muslim on council. And I want to use this opportunity because we're talking about hatred and attacks. I think I want to use this platform to be able to say that, hatred and acts of hate is not welcome here. Just yesterday, the news broke about people that sprayed swastika and hateful anti-Semitic stuff on a building here in Nashville. We have to keep standing against that. I would not be sitting in this position if not for the interfaith and multi-faith work that's gone on in Nashville. I benefited from years of working together when you talk about paying dues with the Jewish community, with the Christian community, having that faith, having people welcoming immigrants, the English as a second language defeats that we did. So those are things that help me and make my road here a little bit easier. And so paying the dues and being part of the community actually help in that sense. And so that helped. And the few people that were saying what they're saying, I actually remember the vice mayor coming to me about somebody that wrote him a letter and said, the Jewish community should not vote for her because she's anti-Semitic. And so the Jewish community actually came together and had a fundraiser for me. And Avi wrote an op-ed in the paper saying, she's one of us. So yes, that's one of the things that I've loved about this city, that I love about the campaign, and what I believe having somebody like myself in this seat continue to show the world that we are better than that and we come together as people.
Sandra, being young, being a woman, being a minority, I mean, that's a triple whammy in some people's eyes. Do you think you played it to your advantage?
I guess I tried, right? Yeah, I mean, I sit back and listen to a lot of the paying the dues conversation. A big part of me resents that, right? When you are young, brown, and a woman, I had a number of people tell me to wait my turn and to not do it right now. I was running against a former state legislator who was 3 times my age, who had held the seat in the 80s and then went on to the state and was coming back. And so I don't think that people realize that when you come from certain backgrounds, certain barriers have not put you in a position where you're able to pay your dues, as you would say. You don't have access to certain rooms. You don't have access to certain tables. And when you leave out people who haven't had those opportunities, it can hurt a community, right? The district that I represent, I have lived in since I was 5. I went to school there. I met my friends there, and I built a community there. And if I had listened to the people that told me I was too young, that I wasn't white enough, that I wasn't Latina enough, that I had an older Latino gentleman tell me I should draw on my eyebrows a little bit more because I looked Japanese. You know, I had a lot of pushback, and if I wasn't able to push through that, then I fear what that would have meant for my community to this day, because I was lucky enough to have Fabian Bedney, who was the first Latino man elected to council. And when he lost that large seat, there was a bit of a fear in me, because that's a heavy weight to carry around, and you don't get a day off. You are the only voice for an entire community, so you don't get to take a break. Yeah, I guess it's not easy.
Shannon, you were telling me something before we came on tonight about the beauty of Metro.
Yeah. You know, I think this is part of the valuable detour of being the clerk and supporting the 40-member council, which is the 3rd largest in the country. But if you understand the history, and for me, I mean, the way I described it to Dimitri was like a romance. If you understand the romance behind how we got the 40-member council and you put it in context, I think it's really beautiful. And for those of you, if you're ever up near the historic courthouse and you go by the council rooms, if you go into committee room 1, you can go and literally go in each of the committee rooms and see the 40-member council body from start to finish, from the first inception 60 years ago that we're celebrating now. And when you put that in context and understand that you've got a community, a city and a county trying to consolidate, and had already put this in front of the voters and it had failed. So voters said no. And then the courage of leaders, many of which were giving up power, some trying to figure out the best way to bring a community forward and to actually put this in front of voters again. part of a big negotiation factor was making sure that each community had a representative that looked like them and understood them. It didn't matter if you were part of the urban district or the general services district. You wanted someone that you knew, that understands you, that could advocate for you and your family's needs, your community's needs. And so that negotiation is really what brought about the 40-member council, so that everybody had a representative that they really felt understood them. And then you put that in context of 1963, the throes of the civil rights movement in Nashville, Tennessee, and you look and you have people of color. You have a female on the council who was taking her husband's spot. There really is a beauty and a romance to that. And I know, obviously, the size of the council has been a big topic otherwise for the state. But I would say if you understood the romance and how it brought our entire community together to be such an effective form of government now, I think it's really remarkable. It's something that's very remarkable to me.
Yeah. Before we open it to questions, and everyone be thinking of your own questions here, I'd like to ask all the ladies, I'll start with Sandra, proudest moment so far as an elected official?
I had a lot of proud moments, to be honest, but I think the first one came very early on, which I'll never forget. It was actually here. I did my swearing in the courtyard, and a father brought his daughter. They lived in the district, and he came up to me and he's like, I wanted to bring my daughter because she could see someone that comes from the neighborhood that looks like her that was able to do this. And so very early on, I think that was one of my proudest moments.
Wonderful. Z?
Oh, how do you top that? I think I've had a couple, but one that I'm very proud of is the pilot that we just did a couple of months ago. It's the Right to Counsel pilot. When we're talking about housing in Nashville, it's a very big deal. And while building more homes is important, it's also important for us to help people stay in their homes. And one of the things that has been happening in Nashville now is that landlords are selling their homes from under their tenants, and people are getting to lose their homes. So we found out that, when tenants go to court, when they're facing eviction, 99% of the time the landlord has an attorney, but the tenant does not. So we were able to take part of the money. We did a study for about 2 years with Vanderbilt and some other people, United Way, and we came together and we were able to put about $3 million into this pilot that now says that, one, we will educate people on what their rights are as tenants. But if you ever get to a place where you're about to lose your home and you're facing eviction, we will actually give you an attorney to represent you for free. Home is very critical. It's our pride. You take that from somebody, you've taken everything that they got. So to be able to do that is something that I'm very proud of, and hopefully will help to keep people in their homes.
I would say probably the ability as a regular Metro employee to work your way from the bottom to the top. I think the ability to be able to demonstrate that to Metro employees and say there's a path, and then creating more paths for more people, right, in ways that make sense. So I think my biggest point of pride is the ability to go from the beginning up to leadership and to show others that that is absolutely available to them in our organization as well, because we've got a big organization. So.
Yes.
I sat and I listened, and again, everybody's got these wonderful examples. For me, I guess the proudest moment was when I learned to do what young people or individual staff people who come into our office most days have to learn to do. When I was able to sit down to learn how to use our state computer system and issue renewals, and to have one of the employees come from the back of the building and take a picture of me, and she said to me, "You are the first clerk who has ever sat down and did this." The thing that I said to them when I got there is that I will never ask more of you than I'm willing to give myself. And so I wanted to learn what it was they did every day. I wanted to learn how to do it. I can issue a marriage license. I can renew somebody's plate. But just the fact that my employees, are one of them, and I think all of them now, saw that I would never ask any more of them than I'm willing to do, it made a difference for all of them too. So we give it all. We give it our all every day, and we do it all together.
And God bless you for the kiosks. They have been life-changing.
Well, you know, I almost talked about the kiosks, because I have to say to you guys that the very first, we implemented kiosk in 2014, and I wanted to put the first kiosk at Green Hills. Now, the mayor at the time, and I won't call his name, but he said to me, why would you do it at Green Hills? That's going to get a whole bunch of attention. Well, the reason I was putting it at Green Hills was that I was trying to add staff to every location, because invariably you go into one of our offices and there are lines. And I don't like lines, so I know customers coming in the door don't like them. And so I thought, Green Hills was small and there was no way to add staff. The only way to add an additional staff person there was to put a kiosk in. And just know, guys, we're adding more kiosks. In fact, we have 8 in the city right now. We're going to be adding 2 more. We're going to be relocating some. Farmers Market is online. We're trying to get one at Plaza. We're trying to put one from here in the East Nashville Library. So we just hope to introduce this technology to people across the county so that they don't have to spend as much time in lines.
Yes, and here's a lady that was doing it all before technology.
Yes.
Way before.
In fact, when we computerized the assessor's office, when it wasn't, everything was done by hand. And I had one employee, has been there many, many years, retired because he was not gonna, he just said, I can't learn this, you know.
He said that.
It was a he. It was a he.
All right, I want to talk about my proudest.
Please.
I've got a lot of proud moments, but all of us up here would not be here if our families weren't involved. And when Steve passed away, we'd been married over 58 years. And you know, that's quite a record to run as many campaigns as we ran and serve as many years as I served and still married to the same old coot. That's what he said. And then it never goes away. And I guess one of my proudest moments is here I am. I consider myself a has-been.
No.
I'm 82 years old, and all 3 of my sons and their families are in the audience.
Where are you guys? Bravo. Time for audience questions. Who have we got? Certainly there's curiosity out there, right?
You mentioned Betty Dixon a moment ago. Who are some of the other people who have passed on, who are not able to be a part of this celebration, that you think played important role?
Great question. Let's name drop a little. Who are some of the other pioneers that need to get their applause?
Well, Diane, who was vice mayor, our first female.
Yeah,
Diane Neighbors.
Diane
was
Neighbors,
first
yes.
vice mayor.
Carolyn Baldwin Tucker, the first.
But she hadn't passed away.
No, she. Oh, I'm sorry. Thelma. I'm
Still
sorry.
with us, too.
Still with us, but there are some that are still with us. I'm sorry, you're right. She hadn't passed away, but some of these folks who are still with us, who, you know.
And the Senator Thelma Harper.
Thelma
her
Harper,
daughter's here
yes.
tonight. That's one of the things I think that helped me get elected the first time and kept me there. When my youngest son went to kindergarten, I went back to college because when I got married, I quit college and went to work, and Steve went to law school. And so I went back to college, and my friend, who I went to church with her and her family, was Thelma and Paul Harper and their 2 little children. And so I said, Thelma, you've always talked about wanting to go back to college. Let's go back and let's go start together. And it took us a very long time to get registered at Tennessee State. And I understand that's not a whole lot better now, but, but we finally, after a week, we just sitting out crying, and this coach came up and he said, "What's the matter with y'all?" And here's this only white woman on campus, and they called us, by the way, Salt and Pepper. And guess who was Salt? So we we can't get registered, and I said, Thelma, God just trying to tell us we don't need to do this. And he said, well, I'll tell you what to do. You start classes and worry about registering later. So we did. And we graduated from Tennessee State 4 years later.
Wow. And the kids were how old?
Oh, let's see. How old were y'all?
Elementary school, huh?
Yeah. Pardon? 13, 11, and 9.
Yeah, she is. Linda's back there.
Linda Harper.
Any other women? Diane Neighbors. Diane Neighbors is not dead, though, is she? Really? I don't think so. She doesn't live anymore.
And all I can tell you is I remember I was much younger than my brother, but he would come up and say, Mom and Miss Joanna, they are all over the place. They who's who and college students. Everybody's calling them Salt and Pepper. It was a lot of fun. It really was to see them in action.
I bet.
My question was, what are some of the biggest obstacles for women seeking public office? For instance, do you think are men and women still treated differently, especially when it comes to scandals in public office?
I don't want to talk about scandals in public office, but one of the things that I've always said is that typically women, when they're considering a run for public office, will always question whether or not they're capable. Am I qualified? Is that right? We always say, am I really qualified to do this? Well, that's not always the case with most men. In fact, there's a man now who took an introductory course to economics, called himself an economist, and got elected. So, again, you just got to believe in yourself. You just got to believe enough in yourself to just go do it. I know that sometimes you have your doubters, don't believe them. You have your haters, don't believe them. Believe what's inside of you. My mama always told me, I tell people, my mama was my biggest cheerleader. She, I thought, was the wisest person that I ever knew, and she didn't graduate high school. But she did tell me always what I could do, not what I couldn't. So just believing enough in yourself to do it.
And I think on that same note, like, even though I'm never going to run for office, I'm just mark my words right now. The two biggest pieces of advice I think kind of also resonate is don't be ruled by fear. I have been terrified before, and know your worth. And I think it took a long time for me to know my worth. And even once you know your worth, sometimes you forget temporarily your worth. And it is okay to take a step back and go, oh, I can do this, right? So not being ruled by fear, finding out your worth, and even when you're stumbling in that moment, know that it's there, right? Because I forgot my worth. I had to rediscover it. And I think that you've got to allow yourself grace for that too.
And let me also add that I wasn't a community activist, a grassroots mobilizer, working in the community for a long time, for about 20 years doing advocacy work. What you have to know is that telling somebody about your issue and telling them how to help you with your issue is different from you being at the table and making those decisions. I used to go to the Legislative Plaza a lot, and so what I found out is that, some people, you can give them the facts and they'll do the right thing, but some people just ignore it and keep going. And so it's not always about us, but about the issue. Running for office is not just about taking up a spot. What is the issue that you're interested in and wanting to solve? And it's not just lawyers that are making decisions. That's another thing that I find that a mistake that a lot of people makes, thinking that you have to do poli-sci or be a lawyer to be in politics. No, some of the decisions that we make is about water and stormwater. We have engineers. We talk about teachers in school. You need teachers at the table. We need mothers at the table. Stay-home mom to be able to say, this is how it impacts me. So all of us have a role to play, and all of our combined experiences can actually make a better policy. So we need help, do it. If I can do it, that's what I tell everyone. Shoot, anybody can do it.
I love that Zolfat said diversity of thought. I mean, that's really, you are going to have better outcomes no matter what you're facing, and you don't have to know about water infrastructure when you come in. Diversity of thought is going to produce the best outcomes, and that is why it's so important to have so many different, plus women are so detail-oriented, and we are such great jugglers.
And we get the job done.
I'm glad you brought that up. Don't you all feel that you have gotten good support, hopefully, from other women
Absolutely.
in the room?
Absolutely. My budget hearing was the other day, and I said before it started, I looked around, and there was no men in the room. There were 3 really strong women sitting behind me, and we had the WebEx call. We did it by WebEx. And once we got on the call, Shannon was there, but very few men were on the other end too. Those women on that end, Shannon, our finance people, have all supported our work. And we've gotten some things done in the county clerk's office because they believe in us and support what we do.
When I was elected to the assessor's office, I was the first constitutional officer, woman constitutional officer in Davidson County. And now, how many do we have? It's
That's it.
easier
That's
to
right.
name the men,
Right.
Yeah.
that are constant.
We outnumber them.
Yeah, you have the sheriff and Howard Gentry and
Juvenile court clerk.
Joseph Day
Day is
and
the
the,
court clerk.
and the rest are women.
We have rest of women.
Well, I wanted to say on the note you said we need more teachers. I'm a Metro school teacher, and I was actually asked by my friend to run, but I found out today through TEA that if you're an active teacher, because I'm still active, that you can't run. And I think we need to change that, because I know firsthand what I have 20 years and I have personal experience. And I was very surprised I can't run as a board member.
You have to be retired, right? Yeah, it's. when you retire, but you're ready now.
My friend Delicia Porterfield, who serves with us, was a teacher, and she had to leave to run. I'm not advocating you should do that, but as we make decisions, you don't want to be in a place where you have a conflict and you're not able to impact the decision because you have to recuse yourself every time because it affects you. Then you will not be as effective. And so that's why I think that is there. Maybe there's some other ways you can plug in, but please do consider running when you retire or maybe when things change. But you can also still be involved. Let me put this in there, that we welcome your thoughts and your voices all the time. Come to the meetings, email us, talk to us. We want that. And whatever you're thinking, I'll steal your idea. You can give it to me.
We're about ready to wrap, but I want to ask you ladies, how do we get more people to vote in these important council elections?
Yeah, I think that's the $1 million question, right? So our voting isn't great here in Davidson County. I could speak to the immigrant community specifically. When you're not included in government, you don't participate in government, and you start to think that this government isn't meant for you. And so when we're not translating our documents, when we're not translating any media advisory that's going out, when we're not letting communities know how they could get plugged in, where they can find help, they're not going to reach out to us because they don't trust us and because we're not working for them, because we don't keep them in mind in the most basic manners, right? And it's the same thing for young people. If we're not actively engaging young people, it's hard for them to care. This is why I started a TikTok. I was like, I'm gonna make fun of my colleagues a little bit and reach out to a new group of people. This is why I translate my newsletter and my graphics, and I'm able to do that because I have the privilege of knowing 2 languages. I know that's not always the case, but I think that a lot of these barriers have to be addressed in order to get people engaged in the electoral process.
And Dimitri, I wanted to add to that, just to say that I'm gonna say to the immigrants and the women and everybody that is out there that is now voting, please do vote. Every decision that is made impacts you, whether directly or not, or indirectly. And in the words of my favorite first-time U.S. Black Congresswoman, Charlie Chisholm, it said, if you're not invited to the table, you bring your own chairs, something like that. We don't always have to wait to be asked. If I have to wait for somebody to invite me into the room, I would not be sitting here. And so we need to be bold enough. This is about us, our children, our grandchildren. We have to be there. Men are making decisions about women every day that they don't have any business doing. And so please don't sit back. We need us to be doing this.
When we don't vote, we wind up with legislators being heavy-handed, doing things that we don't want or need done, and we see that happening here in Davidson County right now. You know, I tell my nephews, I think I'm a pretty good cook, and I tell them, if you don't vote, you don't eat. And so they send me the pictures of themselves with their I voted stickers. But the thing we've got to do is to impress upon people that all politics is local. And to think that I'm going to wait on a presidential election to vote is not what you always need to do. You need to vote for the school board member. You need to vote in the council race. You need to vote in the mayor's race. You need to vote in every race.
Yes. Ladies, thank you so much for everything that you've done and continue to do for all of us. You've made this a wonderful place to live and a wonderful place to stay living in, correct? We really do appreciate your service, and Joanne, you're an inspiration.
Absolutely.
And I believe we're finishing with music, right, Mayor?
Thank you so much. And let's give Demetria a round of applause, please. We'd like to thank each and every one of you for coming out tonight. And above all, unequivocally, we want you to mark April the 1st on your calendars from 1 to 4. That's when we're going to have our little celebration, our party there right in front of the Metro Courthouse. We want you there, okay? Raise your hand if you want to come to the party. We're going to party hardy. Raise your hand. That's what I'm talking about. I do want to tell you one last thing. Where is Terry? Terry, if you would come up here, please. Terry, where are you? I need you to come here because I need you to do one little thing too. But I'd like to recognize a few people. Again, I'm Deputy Mayor Brenda Haywood, and I come to you from the mayor's office where Mayor John Cooper is our 9th mayor. And we just want to give a shout out to him. He had another event tonight, he and his wife. Come on, Terry. I want to say that Linda Harper is on the committee with me that has planned all of this. And I just want to thank you. Would you stand up, Linda Harper? Then I want to thank Roseanne Hayes, Roseanne Shacklet. She has the best husband in the whole world next to mine. I'd like for her to stand up, Roseanne. Linda comes from the mayor's office. Roseanne comes as chief of staff for the Metro Council, where Jim Showman, has Jim left, y'all? Jim left? Oh, okay. Then we have Tam Gordon. Tam, would you please stand up? She comes to us from HR. Tam Gordon. She is our chief executive officer for this whole group, okay? And then we have none other than somebody that I'm just enamored by this lady. I just admire this lady. I'm older than she is. I've been here longer than she has, but she knows more about this city than anyone else, okay? And her name is none other than our historian. Her name is Carol Brucey. Would you please stand up? I'd like to give a shout out to Scott Wallace. He is my executive assistant, and he could not be with us tonight, but he's on every set, and Linda can tell you. So I have to give a shout out to him. If you are an elected official, would you please stand up? If you are an elected official, please stand up. That's Miss Jenny Walsh. What district is yours, Jenny? Thank you so much for being here tonight. I know there's a couple of meetings going on at the courthouse. I want y'all to know from 15 to 19, I served as the District 3 council person, had no desire like many of the ladies here. And I just want to give a shout out to every lady up here because I just think so highly of them. I think about Zofat and the courage she had. I grew up with Brenda. Raise your hand, Brenda. I grew up with her. I think, oh man, Sandra, you're the youngest one up here. We're just so proud of you. My phone is ringing. Oh my God. And and talk about women and their compassion. That's my husband. I can remember being on the council and my mother died after my second year. And I didn't even know you so well. And you came to me and you said, what can I do to just help you get through this? And I'll never forget you coming to me and how you reached out. Women are just very compassionate. And so I think and baby girl, I love the question that you asked because you asked a question that kind of riveted throughout this audience, and that was, what is it that we can do for more women to get involved? And what were some of the setbacks that you have? And I just want to encourage women because I know one woman in particular, Miss Donna, and I know Miss Donna, raise your hand, Miss Donna. I know how you really want to get involved in politics, but you have all these reservations. So in listening to these ladies tonight, they were not born into the world saying, I'm going to run, I'm going to do this. So I just hope that if nothing else, that someone was encouraged tonight. So I love you, little girl. That's Leanne. Raise your hand, Leanne. She had a women's forum on last week. But I want you to say another word about the women's voter room upstairs and tell them how to get there because we want to invite everybody up. And Linda, can people come and get some more refreshments? Are there refreshments left or have? Okay, thank you. Could you say something and tell them how to get upstairs to the room?
Sure. So our Votes for Women room is on our second floor. So you can either go up the steps as you come into the first floor, or you can take the elevator to 2. When you do that, you'll see, just head straight across. There's a big open area, but there's signage that says Civil Rights room and also the Votes for Women room. So please join. It's a really incredible space. And Neil's here, and I just want to recognize and thank him for all that he did to make that happen.
And we have so many people here that made that happen. I'd like to call Andrea Fanta to the stage. Andrea, are you here? Andrea? Oh my God. See, she is not right. I told her I had something for her because she's also on our team of advisors and she has worked so hard and I have a special gift for her. I shouldn't have told her because I knew she would disappear on me. But yeah, you see what she did, don't you, Linda? So at this time, we like to call the choir back up and give us a final selection, and then we will go upstairs. Is that okay? And I want you to know again, 2 weeks ago, they did a reception for me, and upstairs there's an exhibit. And if you have a group of young women or young men that would like to come and be a part of that, please don't hesitate to visit the exhibit and call and get reservations to bring your group. At this time, we'd have the Christ Church Choir to come to us in their own way. Thank you.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.